note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 speeches from either the traditional or Pathways programs, or you must have substantive, relevant presentation experience that you demonstrate in a 3 to 5 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to board approval. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and your role. If you have one, just right-click on your panel and select Rename to do so. We have members and oftentimes guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we do ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video and audio contributions may use for our club marketing purposes. Also, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Today's theme is National Scrabble Day. Please welcome back our club president, distinguished Toastmaster, Lois Margolin.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I am excited to get our meeting started. I've done a whole bunch of announcements and I'll bring the president, oh yeah, that's me. I'll bring myself back at the end, but I'm also Toastmaster of the day. So I'm gonna do the woo. Welcome, we have a great meeting scheduled for today. As your Toastmaster of the day, I realized there are a lot of people that make me look so good as your Toastmaster of the day. And I now have a challenge to every one of these individuals that I'm calling upon, because before you introduce your role, I want you to start with a statement, excluding speakers. I have the most important role of the day because, and then introduce your role. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about that. Okay, that's 10. So our timer, Elaine, would you please introduce yourself and your role?
Hi, I'm your timer, Elaine Nieberding. This is the most important role because everything to get votes depends on timing. Timing the right amount of time for each area of participation. Being a speaker, being a table topics respondent, or being an evaluator. So what I will be doing when you meet the minimum time, green will, wait a minute. Come on, green. You know what? I just killed my green, so I'll have to add my green back. But I can show green when it's supposed to be green. I can show yellow when you've met the midway point, and red when you should be winding it up, and stop when, like, it's time to stop. And I will give a report at the end of each section about the timing for each of our participants. Back to you, Lois. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. I love your stop sign. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know, Toastmasters International just put in their resource section on the website the red, yellow, and green time lights with their logo. It's not quite as bright, but it is effective. Our all counter, Diane Rubino, would you please introduce your role?
Hello, everyone. My role is the most important one of the day because those subtle can really detract from your presentation without you being aware of it. So this role is important to help guide you to a new level of public speaking.
Thank you. Our grammarian, Antoinette Trim.
I have the most important role today because I will be acting as the grammarian. I'll be taking note of the good use of the English language as well as the improper use. The word for today is vernacular, and I encourage everyone to use that word. Back to you, Lois.
Thank you, Antoinette. Our watcher, Hetzi.
There we go. Hi, I'm Hetzi. I'm the watcher for today, and this is the most important role because we need to make eye contact, and visual and facial expressions is part of what we do as well. And if we can't see you, we can't see that. Also, I will be watching the screen, and this is my first time doing this, so I'm very excited. I'll be watching the screen for your position on the screen for lighting, and also for the things that you do while other people are speaking, because we're really getting up close and personal here.
All right, thank you. Our chat monitor, Trisha.
Good evening, everybody. I have the most important role in this meeting tonight because I get to monitor the chat and everybody gets to participate. So please be encouraging. I get to outline the highlights. So let's see some good chat going on, and everybody is invited. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Our vote counter, John Quick.
Madam Toastmaster, I have the most important role of the day as the vote counter. In almost 4 years as a Toastmaster, I've never done it. E-Club. And we learn the most when we do new things for the first time. That's why I'm most important. Because I just said that, I'm going to take all the awards and keep them for myself today. Nevertheless, you can still vote by going to the chat, going to the drop-down box, clicking on my name, sending me a direct message for whoever you think did the best job right after the speeches, the table topics, and the evaluations. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. And I would appreciate if all of you would send a vote to John on who introduced their role the best today. While you're doing that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Scrabble Day. Does anybody want to guess the year?
Lois, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? How about now? Can you hear me?
The rest of us can hear you, Lois.
Yeah, I
Oh.
can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, John, somebody text John telling me he's going to get a lot of votes who had the best intro of the day. I am going to tell you a little bit about Scrabble. Does anybody want to guess the year? Put it in the chat. I will back to the year that it was actually created. Let's see some people getting creative. When do you think Scrabble was created? What year? I got a 23. 895. No, that's a little too early. Keep going. 1922, 19. We're getting closer. I got 30. We're getting closer. I'm going to go with 1938 by Alfred Mosher Butts. And in 1948, it physically became a different variation, which Scrabble became to mean scratch frantically. And in 1952, Macy's ordered the game. And in 1984, Scrabble became the newest word, TV. So it aired on TV. Let's get started because we have some amazing, amazing speakers. Elaine, would you tell us the time requirements for all of our speakers, please?
Yes, indeed. For speaker number 1, the time is green at 5, yellow at 6, red at 7. For speaker number 2, it's the same. That's Emily Thompson. For speaker number 3, Brian David Crawford, it is an icebreaker speech. So green is 4, 5 is yellow, and 6 is red.
Thank you, Elaine. Our first speaker is going to be Nick Lacani. He is speaking from the Entertaining Manual, number 4, A Dramatic Talk. The title is Revenge on Hunter Mountain. Today, Nick tells us about the most dramatic event in his life whilst working as a camp counselor in a summer camp on the slopes of Hunter Mountain, upstate New York. This true story occurred in the summer of 1990, and he's never, ever been able to speak about it until now. The camp is for mentally and physically handicapped adults and children, and no campers were harmed in this story. However, those easily offended or those who are of nervous disposition may wish to take a 5 to 7 minute break from their computer. With a speech titled Revenge on Hunter Mountain, please give a warm welcome to camp counselor Nick Lacani.
Revenge on Hunter Mountain. That's the story we were told on the bus from New York City to upstate in the Catskill Mountains. What does that mean? What happened? Some of us asked. Well, we can't talk about it. But let's just say the mountain takes care of its own. I'm a lad from Britain, come to America for the first time. I don't know what's going on. Okay, whatever, it's probably just a story, it's fine. We got to the camp, we were allocated a cabin. I had cabin 4 with 2 other guys. So there was Steve and there was Joey. Now Joey's American, absolutely haywire and crazy and everything. Nice guy. We got on really well, we worked well together. The other guy was an English guy. He's actually from Northwest England, near me right now, Preston. And he was a nice guy, good looking, Steve. We called him Suntan Steve. Long, flowing blonde hair, nice, good film star looks, perfect teeth, tidy white t-shirt, always prim and proper, always looking good. And yeah, seemed like a nice guy. Brilliant. Let's have a great summer. Well, during that summer, it's the most fabulous time in my life. Not only with this British accent, what I found was I was the catnip for the Americans. They would offer me beers and back rubs and, oh my God, there was so much hugging. Even the girls joined in too. What actually happened? We learned that Suntan Steve only worked hard at one thing, on how to get out of any work at all. If there was nothing to do, he would look for something else which was even less than nothing to do. If there was lots of things to do, he would look for an easy way out. Let's take a note to the nurse. Let's get the medicine from the dispensary. And then he would disappear for hours at a time, leaving Joey and I to do the work. Well, we loved our campers and we wanted to make sure that we did everything for them that we could. And so even though he wasn't there, we made up for it. And it brought us closer together and also made us better at our jobs. During the summer, things went along. Steve did his thing. Joey and I looked after the camp. I looked after our campers, and everything was great. And then we found out what they meant by the mountain taking care of its own. It was about week 7, and people around the camp started to get sick. It was just one of these bugs that go around. And eventually our cabin was hit as well. So we had people with vomiting, people with diarrhea, people with both. That was hard work, I got to tell you. That particular week, I've never worked harder in my life. But Joe and I got through it. We got our campers cleaned up, did everything for them that we could to make them as comfortable as we could, and we still kept on having fun. Great. However, we were actually being weighed down. We were very, very tired by then, and we didn't know it. Our unit head, Karen, had spotted this, so she came down one afternoon to just check in on us. And she then, over a couple of hours, saw how little Steve was doing. Suntan Steve, sitting there on the veranda, getting his suntan, while we were looking after the campers. Then there was a loud moan from one of the beds. Ed was one of the campers, started moaning, holding his stomach, almost screaming of pain. And Joey looked at me, I looked at Joey, and we kind of like mentally tossed a coin, and I lost. So I started to take Ed into the bathroom. Karen said, wait a minute. Steve, why don't you take Ed and make him comfortable? Wow. Steve was like, I don't know how to do that. What? And he was looking around frantically, trying to find an excuse, a reason not to be there. He couldn't get out of it. He took Ed, took him to the toilet, sat him down, underwear around his ankles. That's Ed, not Steve. So Ed is sitting there and he's moaning. And then Hunter Mountain sends a message to Ed that he's about to be sick. I'm gonna puke. Sit there, Ed, sit there, said Steve. I'm gonna puke. Keep sitting down. Honestly, keep sitting down. You're fine. Puke on the floor. It's no problem. No, I'm gonna puke. And he stood up, and this boy was a big linebacker-sized man. And he went down. He stood up and he leant over, put his head in the bowl, and put his butt right in the direction of Steve, who was backing away to the wall. And then it came. Hunter Mountain said, go. Ed went, whoa! And then he pushed like he's never pushed before, like he was having a baby. And the result was, it wasn't pretty. A spray of you know what all over Steve. His hair was not blonde anymore. His shirt wasn't white anymore. His teeth weren't white anymore. Hunter Mountain takes care of its own. Don't mess with the mountain. Madam Toastmaster.
Okay, well, that was certainly a dramatic talk. Thank you, Nick. We appreciate it. Our second speaker is Emily Thompson. Emily is working on the Engaging Humor Level 3, Increasing Your Knowledge, Creating Effective Visual Aids. The title is Preventing the Spread of Coronavirus, starring you. Dr. Emily Thompson has a PhD in biology and is on the faculty at the local community college. One of the classes she teaches is hospital microbiology. Join her as she discusses preventing the spread of coronavirus, starring you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Everyone is concerned with the coronavirus infection, and today I wanted to go over a little bit about the virus and what we can do to fight COVID-19. Therefore, because you are taking action, it is starring you. To start with the virus, shown here in the middle of the first slide, we have a representation of the virus. It's an RNA virus, RNA being a molecule, and that RNA is inside, and on the outside are little red proteins. The sphere that holds the RNA virus is made up of membrane from the previous host, the person who sneezed on the recipient. And as that virus bursts out of the host, it is covered in the host membrane. I am interested in public health in the Southeast Michigan area as a hobby, and I have been going every day to the Michigan government websites and calculating the CRUDE death rates for our state, the state of Michigan in the United States. In April 1, that rate was 3.6%, which was greater than what was reported worldwide, which was closer to 3 at that time. And calculating for April 9, it was 4.7, and for April 12, it was 6%. So one of the questions is, why is it higher in Michigan than for the world overall? And I have also been interested in what's going on countywide in my state. So I did the death rates for 4 counties, and these are counties all clustered in the southeast region of the Michigan state. The county I live in is Washtenaw, and the rates are between 2% and 3% over this 12-day region. You might have been hearing about the city of Detroit if you're following news of coronavirus deaths in the United States. Detroit has a higher than average rate, as does Wayne County, in which it sits, starting at 3% on April 1 and going up to 6% April 12. And nearby counties, Macomb and Oakland, have gone from 5% to 7%. So these are much higher than average, and there is discussion about why this is so. It is, seems to be a terrible truth. A paper has been reported that deaths may be higher because there's higher air pollution here for the fine particles that make your lungs less able to sustain the damage of the virus. So we would say overall that this coronavirus is an unequal opportunity virus. Now, moving on to some things that we can do. The first thing that's recommended is to engage in social distancing. And for social distancing, you're supposed to stay 6 feet apart when doing essential errands out of your house. This would include going to the supermarket. It would include picking up prescription medicine, or it would include doing exercise for a short time outside of the house. And the joke here, if you're not familiar with the cartoon, Where's Waldo? You're supposed to be looking for the guy with the red and white striped t-shirt, and it's really easy to find Waldo when we have social distancing. Now, oops. Sorry. Okay. And my friends all call this instead physical distancing. The summary for this would be, this virus we can defeat, just stay apart 6 feet. We're also recommended to wash our hands with soap and water, and you're to do that perhaps while you're singing Happy Birthday. My friends seem to be singing sea shanties with verses that would make a sailor blush. To remember this, remember to fight coronavirus with the power of soap. Finally, we'd like you to wear a homemade face mask according to recommendations in my state. And at the top here is a homemade mask that I sewed, and at the bottom is a mask that you can fold. These are not the masks that we're supposed to be using. These are healthcare face masks or shields. We're instead supposed to make our own. And there's a video by Dr. Jerome Adams, the United States Surgeon General, and I'm now going to demonstrate how to fold your own face mask. I have here a piece of fabric that is about 12 inches by 18 inches. It's a t-shirt. We're to fold it into thirds, thusly along the long axis, then fold the top in and the bottom up to make a face mask that's about 8 inches wide. You then have 2 rubber bands, big ones, and you put them about 1/4 of the way across in your face mask here, and then you use the rubber bands to hook around your ears. And at this point, you have 6 layers of fabric around you. So I'm going to put it on. You can make this in a very few number of minutes. And the point is that it offers protection. So you want to wear protection to stop infection. Overall, the recommendation from the CDC is just stay calm and follow the recommendations. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You made that really easy. It is appreciated. Our third speaker is Brian David Crawford, and he is working on his presentation mastery level 1, the icebreaker. Brian David Crawford, or BDC as he's more affectionately known, is a distinguished Toastmaster living in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. Why did he first join Toastmaster and why is he here now? Join us in his speech titled Fred's First Wedding or My Origin Story.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Brian David Crawford, and I am hopefully broadcasting to everyone right now. I'm first joined Toastmasters in 2010, and I joined not because I was afraid of public speaking. I never have been. I'm one of those rare people who joined because I had to give a speech at my best friend's wedding, and I was frankly not really worried about that. I come from a political family. My mother is a politician in the city of Oakland, California, and I grew up as kind of a localized version of Chelsea Clinton with slightly worse hair than she had. After that, I went to San Francisco State University, where I was a broadcasting major. I hosted my own television show on local public access radio, and then after that, I worked for KNBR Sports Talk Radio for 6 years as one of the producers of the show. So you would hear me occasionally on the air if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. And if that wasn't enough media exposure, public speaking opportunities, I was a member of the Golden State Warriors all-male cheerleading team for 3 seasons. And this wasn't when the Warriors were good. No. This is when they were terrible, and they had to resort to things like having male cheerleaders just to get people to sit in the stands so that they can laugh at us. Needless to say, I've never been afraid of public speaking or doing anything that most people would find intimidating or awkward or hard to do. That's just not something that's ever been a fear of mine. The downside of not having that fear is that I don't worry about being bad. I think every single person who is going to do public speaking has this fear, oh my God, what happens if I get up there and they all laugh at me and I think I'm terrible? I don't have that fear. And thus, I was really bad at it for a very long time. That was kind of my shtick. That was what worked. It wasn't that I was good at this, I was terrible at this. So Fred's wedding came up and I was petrified. Not that I would do a bad job and ruin his first wedding. No, I knew his first wife would do that herself. My fear was that I would give him reason to seek retribution at my wedding, which was 6 months later. I did not want to give him any reason to want to destroy my wedding, which, mind you, is still going great. So I sat down and I joined my first club. It was offered through my employer. It was club number 426, the Mass Mutual Speakers of Springfield, Massachusetts. I had a great time. Despite all that fear, I got to my first icebreaker. I was walking up there and I felt sick to my stomach. For some reason, I was not afraid to shake what my mama gave me in front of 20,000 fans at the NBA All-Star game. But speaking in front of 12 people in a conference room made me want to go vomit. So I realized that this was something that was really outside of my comfort zone. I was really exposing myself in a way that I never had done before. So I did it, and I had a great time. And as my schedule changed, I joined a second corporate club, and a third corporate club, and a fourth corporate club, and a fifth corporate club. Eventually, I ran out of corporate clubs to join, and I joined my first and only community club, club number 1347492, Speech Weavers of Agawam, Massachusetts. I've been in that club for a couple years, and I had a great time doing it. It's really helped me grow and become a stronger Toastmasters. There's such a big difference between that corporate Toastmasters experience and that community Toastmasters experience, in the regards that people who join a community club do so because they're willing to sacrifice their valuable time. People who in a corporate club are willing to sacrifice their lunch break. So I joined the club, and it was great. But unfortunately, shortly after I joined, one of the best Toastmasters I ever met left the club. She moved to New Hampshire. Her name was Heather Turner, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because she was featured in Toastmasters magazine. Link is in the chat. She was one of those Toastmasters who managed to be an officer in 15 clubs, give a speech in every single club, every single week, and could do it all while running her own business. I was petrified of losing this strong, incredible Toastmaster. But then she started a virtual club, and I joined. I was so excited about it. The only problem is it didn't fit in with my schedule. I know that people join the Toastmasters Club because it fits with their schedule. And Wednesday nights just did not work for me. Wednesday nights is the night that I can go to the gym and let someone watch my kids while I hop on a treadmill for 30 minutes. It's great. I couldn't come home and get dressed, get the kids into jammies, get food down their throats, and get it going. It just wasn't working out for me. But that bug, that idea that I could be in a third type of club, I've been in corporate clubs, I've been in community clubs, and now I could be in this triangle, this virtual club up here. Heather put that in my mind. So I found this club, I joined, and I couldn't be more thrilled. This really is going to be something that forces me to become a better public speaker. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Mrs. Toastmaster.
Well, we are glad to close your triangle. How awesome is that? Madam Timer, how did our speakers do?
Everyone qualified. Nick's time was 7 minutes, 29 seconds. Emily qualified at 6 minutes and 24 seconds. And Brian qualified at 5 minutes, 34 seconds. I am loading this into the chat as we speak.
Thank you, Madam Timer. It is now part of our second part of the meeting. And let's see if we can bring our table topic master who will tell us why this is the most important role of the meeting. Please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Sarah Go.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. This is the most exciting part of the meeting because you got to practice impromptu speech. We all have that feeling when you meet your boss or when you meet a potential investor or when you were in a job interview. You were giving a topic and you have to come up with a smart answer. And your body just froze and your head went completely empty. And that's the feeling that we want to avoid. And you do that through practicing table topics. Table topics in online presenters is reserved for participants or guests who do not have a role for tonight. I will randomly choose guests from the participant list. If you do want to participate, please raise your hands. If you look at the section under participant names, there is a blue little hand on the left that you can push, or you can press on your keyboard Alt plus Y to gesture me, and I will also choose from people who volunteer. Byrne, Andrew Byrne, are you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. Since the topic today, the theme today is National Scrabble Day, my question to you is, have you played Scrabble before? If yes, can you tell us your best experience with Scrabbles?
Well, I can tell you what to watch out for. My daughter and son-in-law are avid gamers of all board games, and in particular Scrabble. We went over to their house. They live in Tampa, across the state of Florida. And we got there and they said, let's play Scrabble, because we remembered that you like playing Scrabble. I said, okay. And we were being killed. At the end, they let in the secret. There's a book of the most points for 2-letter Scrabble words. And they memorized that book. And they kept coming up with these words that I'd never heard of. And their points were soaring through the sky. I just never heard of these words before. And at the end, they told us they had memorized this dictionary for special Scrabble users that would take you to the top. That's one thing. When you play Scrabble, know who your opponents are. It's important. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. Tabletop Master of the Day.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And also I've got to mention for our guests or for our participant who hasn't played this game before, the time limit for your table topic is 2 minutes. So you're going to see our timer show sign of green at 1 minute, sign of yellow at 1.5 minutes, and a sign of red at 2 minutes. That's where you should wrap up and stop. There. Next, I have Roxanne Jose. Yeah, Roxanne, are you there?
Yes, I'm here and I'm ready.
Perfect.
Hit me.
Wonderful. Here is your table topics. Tell us about a board game that you liked very much, your favorite board game, and why?
My favorite board game, I would have to say, is AC/DC. I don't know how familiar you are with AC/DC, but it is a derivative of backgammon. I take it most of us would be familiar with backgammon. It's a very common game. And AC/DC, the last time I played was so long ago that I do not remember the rules. But I do remember that I loved it. And I think when it comes to the reason, I was good at it. I don't know, I was good at it. But we had a game, the board at home. So every time friends came over, we pulled it out. And it was something that friends and family alike could get behind and get around. And I think if I were to put this in some Jamaican vernacular, I would say, you know, that was just a little sneak to get in the use of the word vernacular. I'm actually not sure what I would say in Jamaican vernacular to illustrate how well it brought us together. But since I brought up Jamaican vernacular, the one that comes to mind is every hoe had a stick of bush. Now I'll tell you why that one came to mind and why I bring it up now. When I heard it as a child, I thought hoe as in whore. But no, it's hoe as in a garden implement. And the stick of bush being the one that you root out with a hoe. So to leave you with some Jamaican vernacular, every hoe had a stick of bush. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. I have to be honest, I've never heard about this game before, but I think I see a lot of people have a smile on their face when they were listening to you. So thank you very much for sharing with us that experience. My next volunteer is Donna from District 81.
Hello.
Okay, Donna. Here is the table topics for you. What is the board game that you ever played with the most people involved? Can you tell us about your experience playing with this board game with the most people involved?
I have the only game I can think of that I played with most people involved is Scrabble, and that has only 4 people. The game that I've played, however, that has the most people involved is Uno, focused Uno. And that has had approximately 12 of us playing that game. And it was the longest one game ever I have ever played in the game of focused Uno. It is simply a game where we sit, we're playing Uno, we give all the rules, and then we have to talk about anything excepting Uno. And the theory behind it is that you must be so focused on what you're doing, you must not miss your turn. Because if you miss your turn and somebody realizes, you get 2 more points. In terms of playing games, I have learned that there's a monster in me that comes out. And so I really do avoid playing games unless I'm very close to people. And I usually have somebody who says, take it down a notch, because I really love to win. And therefore, you know that meme that says, if the game doesn't end in separation of friends, you're not playing it well. Oh, I buy into that so much. Because when I go to play, it is all about, and hopefully everybody who is there, no matter what happens, it is still respect, it is still fun, and it is still going to win. I perhaps should start learning more about other board games to widen my playing ability. But I like games where people are connecting with it, which is one of the reasons I've always loved being on teams as well as playing within the circle of Uno. Pictionary comes to mind, and it's close to board because we usually have it up on an easel. Other than that, I have stayed far from it. I need to find out from my friends why we don't have that many board games. Scrabble still remains my favorite game to play, and I look forward to learning new games. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much for that story. I think we can all relate to that. Being competitive and trying to win. My next volunteer is Lo Brown. Lo Brown.
Yes, ma'am. Ready to go.
Perfect. Okay. Here's your question. What is your least favorite board game and why?
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. Interesting question. Believe it or not, Scrabble is my least favorite game. How interesting on National Scrabble Day, huh? The reason being that I'm a math major, I am not an English major or a grammar major, so I really was at a loss for words, which is kind of a good irony in terms of this game, isn't it? I could not win at this game no matter how hard I tried. And mostly the words I would use, of course, like cat, dog, and I didn't know anything about those really intense words, so I could never win, get the double, triple score, all that kind of stuff. What I really liked are games that I really didn't have to think, and that really didn't involve a lot of effort or anything tricky with it, say. And quite honestly, even when I would play certain games, I would almost self-sabotage because it wasn't about winning with me. It was just about having fun. So like chutes and ladders, I would go for the chutes, not the ladders, because I like sliding down. Mousetrap, I was just about building the trap. I didn't care if I trapped a mouse or anything like that. And games like Life and Monopoly, with me with Life, I don't know if anybody remembers that game. I just love driving a little car over the bridges and stuff. I didn't care if I landed on something that said go to jail, which I think is Monopoly. I'm mixing up my games, but I think you get the idea. With me, it was just about playing the game, not about winning. And to answer again, your question, your direct question is Scrabble was kind of like pretty much my least favorite. So my apologies to the Scrabble likers out there and National Scrabble Day enthusiasts. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you very much. And my next volunteer is Cat West. Cat West.
Hi.
There you go. Here is your question. What is a really good virtual game that you played? And tell us why you like it.
Well, growing up, my parents did not let me use the computer or television for virtual games, but I would say that I've learned recently how to build my own video games using computer coding, such as this program Scratch, which came out from MIT. It's actually intended for 5 to 8-year-olds, I'm pretty sure, but that's about the level that I'm on with computer coding. And you can build any type of game you want. And I was able to implement some of the things I learned in a college class called symbolic logic, just making some coding that referenced other codes. And it was interesting. At first, I tried to build a basketball game, and then I realized that that was very difficult. And so I just made a single shooter game where there's this really cute penguin that bounces a basketball, and then if you hit one button, it does a layup. And I hope to learn more about building video games so I can share them with my friends. I think it's an interesting way to communicate things. I even think of building a video game where you could attack coronavirus by washing your hands or jumping 6 feet away from someone. that will be one of my goals. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master.
That's really good. I wasn't expecting your answer at all. This is so brilliant to actually build your own game. That's I think experience every one of us should try. Definitely will be a new learning journey. I think I have one more volunteer. I see in the chat box, I believe it's Michael Alexander. Yes, Michael. Yeah. There you go. You're the lucky one. You're the last speaker for Table Topics today. My question to you actually is, if you can build your own board game, what kind of game would it be? Can you describe it for us?
For me, the best board games are strategy games. Now, I'm going to start off by admitting to Scrabble lovers, I'm dyslexic. So it's not anywhere the kind of game that I love, which is why when my first wife gave it to me as a Christmas present, I knew the wedding was not going to last. What I love are war games. You actually duplicate the maps of actual battles that took place. You lay out the various troops and whatever, and you're looking and moving large quantities of men, materials, and everything else. The strategy is incredible. The things you have to keep in mind at the same time is mind-boggling. And it has a sense of reality because you can duplicate an actual famous battle. You can see why history unfolded the way that it unfolded. You're not limited in any way by the traditions or by the sense of just play and limitations. You can do. You can change or understand history. So for me, a war game, big, complex, and no spelling involved, is the ideal game to build.
Thank you very much, Michael. That is an excellent answer, and I think you should really go build one. That concludes the table topic session of the meeting today. I would like to ask the timer to give us a report. Is everyone within time?
Yes, indeed. All qualified. Andy's time was 1 minute 8 seconds. Roxanne at 2 minutes 2 seconds. Donna 2 minutes 8 seconds. Lou Brown 1 minute 33 seconds. Kat West 1 minute 27. Mike 1 minute 28. Please send your vote to John Quick, and I have all these for your reference in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elaine. That's a very complete report. Now I turn it to our general evaluator, who's Tiger.
Back to me.
Oh, back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sarah. That was fabulous. I loved all your questions, and I liked the engagement that we had in the chat of all the different games and the memories that this evoked. So it was a really interesting time frame, and between Battleship, Risk, Monopoly, Pictionary, Scout Warriors, which I gotta say, I never tried that one. But there were a lot of good games in there, so we appreciate you bringing this all to the forefront. For those of you who haven't realized, at the bottom of your screen by your chat, there's also a button for reactions. And if you go down there, you can visually clap and it will be on the screen. So instead of having to go like this, or if your screen is dark for some reason, you can still clap for our speakers. We are getting ready to round out our third section of the meeting. And to take us through that part, please help me welcome Toastmaster Tiger as our general evaluator. Tiger?
Thank you, Mrs. Esteemed Toastmaster, and an excellent job you did tonight. I have the most important role because without me, no one gets to introduce our fantastic team of evaluators. And who can imagine an online presenters meeting without an evaluation from Jim Barber? I can't imagine that. And on that note, Jim, we would like to hear your evaluation of Nick.
You got it, Mr. General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guest this evening, and especially, of course, Toastmaster Nick Lacani. I have the most important role of the meeting because I have the challenge of evaluating one of our more accomplished members. Nick, in evaluation vernacular, you were impressive. I'll cut to the chase. The best things about your presentation, we talked a little bit beforehand and you told me what to look out for, and these cover those areas. First of all, your use of the pause. You are a master of using the pause, the dramatic pause, the anticipatory pause, pausing for effect, pausing for emphasis, all of these things you used, you are a master at them. This was great presentation. Second thing, and this is, I love this part, so many people establish great eye contact with the members, which of course that doesn't work online. You have to establish eye contact with the camera, and you did that marvelously. I had you in speaker view a lot of the time, and I could see the pupils of your eyes. You were looking right at me, even though I knew that you weren't. You were looking at the camera. You did that so well. You asked me to look out for your ending. Was it a strong, effective ending? And it was. Don't mess with the mountain. Summed up your entire presentation there in that ending. That was perfect. You tried something different. Let me see if I can do that here. You sat further back from the camera. You were back something like this. I didn't know if that was going to work or not. It did work. It enabled you to use your hands, use your gestures a lot more than you normally would. You can't see my gestures now because I'm close to the camera. You were back like here. I could see your gestures. I could see your hands. They were constantly in motion. It was congruent with what you were saying. It enhanced your speech. It worked very well. I liked that. I've got two small suggestions for you, very small. The first, your time. You came in at 7:29. Technically, you were within time. That's cutting it a little close for my taste. I would suggest that you cut about 30 seconds out of that. Give yourself a little bit of time, a little bit where you could relax a little more. Don't cut it quite so close. The other thing was, as I said, I liked sitting further back. That worked very, very well. However, the top corners of your video frame weren't used. And I would like to see them used for something. I don't know exactly what, a prop for possibility, emphasizing being in a campground or something like that. But those are minor things. I just like to use the entire visual frame. But this was a very effective, very impressive presentation, and I am looking forward to the next one. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim, once again for an excellent and thorough speech evaluation. You got all kinds of claps on the screen here. Our next evaluator is Carl, and he is going to evaluate Emily. Carl, please take it away.
Well, Emily, what you wanted to accomplish with this presentation tonight was good, clean use of the technology. And I'll get to that, but I just wanted to say up front that you are excellent at delivering data in a clear and simple manner that we can all easily understand. And you certainly did that with your charts there. Very easy to read, very easy to understand. And then you transitioned very nicely into your PowerPoint. Now, the one thing I would have liked to have seen, and this is a personal choice, but I like to see the person also while the PowerPoint is running. That helps me a bit. So I'm not just looking at a cold PowerPoint slide. So if you can make that happen, I think that would be great. Now, as far as the technical glitch that you had in there, we all know tech will defeat you. We all know that. I don't care how well you plan, how well you practice, it'll get you. And it's happened to me many, many times. Here's what I recommend on that. Don't apologize, first of all, but also come up with some ways that you can easily slip into so that we won't even notice. I'll bet you, had you not apologized, most of us would not have noticed that you were in trouble. And so just continue on, keep it going, and a lot of people will never even notice. It's okay. During your demo, which was excellent, by the way, very well executed, very well done. Quite enjoyed that. But here's one little suggestion I'd like to make on that. Get a little more light on you. You're sort of grayed out, and a little bit of light on you, I think, will help define you better, and will just be a more pleasant scene. And now, finally, you raised a very intriguing question with your data about these elevated numbers in Michigan. You offered a brief suggestion as to how it might be is because of the pollution, but I felt like I wanted to go a little deeper into that. Perhaps that's a whole other presentation. And I would correlate those numbers to places like New York, New Orleans, Northern Italy. Are we seeing the same thing there? And you might be able to come up with an answer. So in summary, a little bit of light would be nice. Beautiful use of data. You're really, really good at it. And if you're going to raise a really interesting question, dive into it and answer all my questions, and don't let the tech bother you. Go ahead, just keep on going. Thank you. And Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Carl. Another phenomenal evaluation, thorough, and I love in summary. I'm always impressed by that. Well, David Carr, you are on, sir, and you have two very difficult. The expectations are very high at this point, sir. So go ahead and wow us with your evaluation of Dave.
All right, I will do my best. Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and the esteemed Mr. BDC DTM. You know, we do come to an online club to practice some of the technical skills, as Emily was just doing. But I also think it's very powerful when somebody has the confidence to just speak directly to the camera and let their face be the special effect. So there was nothing particularly flashy about body language or visual presentation, except that one of the gestures that I really liked was just holding up that picture, that childhood picture of you and your parents. You were taking the icebreaker, which is, you know, a standard speech. And when somebody who's an experienced Toastmaster does their icebreaker again, it's an opportunity to introduce a different aspect of themselves. I liked the way that you built up to this idea that you were a broadcasting major, you're out there shaking your fanny as a male cheerleader. And, you know, I laugh about this doing it for the Warriors when the Warriors weren't good. And I have no idea about, you know, when or the Warriors were good, if they were ever good. But still, that you were out there and you were entertaining them just because you were something that they could laugh at. And that was okay with you. So we certainly got the idea that you were not shy. You know, I sometimes think that this idea that Toastmasters is something that you're supposed to do because you're afraid of public speaking is oversold a little bit. And I think a fair number of us, it's good for those people who do have that paralyzing fear to come, but also for those of us who are mistakenly overconfident. I have a similar story. I say I wasn't afraid of public speaking, but I probably should have been if I knew how I was actually coming across. I had done it, but I hadn't developed the skills. And so you took us through your story of how you decided to develop those skills. And the example of needing to give the, I guess, the best man speech at somebody else's wedding and anticipating the payback that might be coming, you know, that was hilarious. I loved that. And I can think of the speech that the best man made at my wedding that I would have looked for an opportunity to give him some payback had the opportunity arisen. And also, you did bring us into something about the character of Toastmasters and Toastmasters clubs and how they work, and you know, connecting with this very experienced speaker who you wanted to stay with, and how that brought you here. And it is interesting that people do pick clubs as much on logistics and timing as anything else. So it was a great speech. I very much enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next one, of course. Thank you.
Excellent job, David. As always, sir. I love that you were mistakenly overconfident. That need to meditate on that for a while. That's a great line. Thank you, sir. Great trifecta of speech evaluation. So let's move on to our chat monitor. And that would be Tricia.
Hello again, everybody. So we've had some pretty interesting topics in the chat tonight, and Lois mentioned it, some of it already about the different types of games that were favorites. It looks like we have more than one person that likes Risk. So I can't say I like Risk, but I know family members that like Risk, so I'm familiar with that. And the date of when Scrabble began, that was interesting to see. Everybody got to participate and give their ideas of when it started. I was more on the 1950 area, which that's really when it developed, right? Through Macy's online, or the first game that was sold or whatever it was. Some places where people were from, I missed a couple of those, but that was also in the chat, so I thought that was interesting. And some feedback to the speakers. So that was pretty much the gist of what I saw. So good participation in the chat box. Thanks, everybody. Back to you.
Thank you, Tricia. Our next evaluator will be our grammarian, Antoinette. Can you share with us your evaluation and observations?
Good evening once more to my fellow Toastmasters. With respect to the prepared speeches, I liked some of Nick's phrases where he said the mountain takes care of itself. He also made a statement of being prim and proper. I thought this was only relevant for the Caribbean people. I didn't know it's there in UK, so I learned something about that. And one thing though, he said the results was when it should be really the results were. Emily, her grammar was more good. Brian, I liked when he said with slightly more hair than she has. That was somewhat interesting. And all male choir cheerleaders, that piqued my interest somewhat because I've never seen or heard about that before. With respect to the use of the word of the day, Roxanne, she used the word vernacular 3 times, and Jim used the word once. And that's it basically. Back to you.
Thank you, Antoinette. That was kind of a difficult word. I was trying to think how I could get that in there, but I'm just not that clever. Our next evaluator will be Hetzi, who is the watcher. What did you observe this evening?
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, this was very interesting for me. For the first time that I filled this role, I think I was very brave. It kept me very busy. But I'm a very visual person and my eyes were all over the place. I loved all the Scrabble backgrounds. Those were really beautiful. Joy, your background, all these virtual backgrounds is something that's really new to me and I really love it. I would just kind of want to point out for Kat, I don't know if you need a green screen maybe, because your like eyes are kind of weird with your background. Then another thing that I noticed and that I think all of us could take notice of tonight is movement. Like when we move, the way that we position in the screen. If we move away to stop our videos, you know, sometimes somebody would get up and walk away, and then that is just better to stop your video while you do that. But also some people would move backwards or forward. Sarah, I noticed that you moved forward and then the bottom of your face was cut off. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is just the contrast in colors and the lighting. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Betsy. And this club is really the leader in green screen technology, I believe, of all the clubs I've ever been to. Fantastic evaluation. Let's move on to our awe counter and see how we did with our usage of the language tonight. Diane, please take it away.
I not only noted I also noted the starting a sentence with an and. If I didn't mention your name, you're golden. Nick Lakani, 3, and so 2. Emily, 5, and starting the sentence with that 5 times. Brian, David, Crawford, combined, advanced. Sarah, 20. Roxanne, 2. Lou, 1. Starting sentence with and twice. Cat, 1 starting sentence with and 3 times. Tiger, 1. Jim, starting sentence once with and. Carl, 5. And so 4. David, 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that thorough evaluation. If I was smart, I would have done you first and I might have got away with 0. That's okay. And David, only 2. I'm impressed. Timer is Elaine. Now this is funny because the last time I was general evaluator, Elaine was timer and I skipped her. So I made a special note, timer. I made like 5 little stars next to the timer. So go ahead, Elaine, and give us your time report.
Well, I'm looking back in the chat where I had everything posted. Every one of our evaluators qualified. So if you have not yet voted for Best Evaluator, please send your vote to John Quick. It's either Jim, Carl, or David.
Excellent, thank you. And is that it? Anything else to add?
Nope. You got the other reports as we went along in the meeting.
Perfect, and I do appreciate you putting that in the chat as we go along. Excellent job. So Lois, do you want me to turn it back to you for our vote counter, or do I get to do the vote counter?
Oh, you do it, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. You faded out on me there.
You can do it.
All right. And Mr. Quick. And I want you all to notice what John said. My role is the most important because I've never done it before. Now that is some serious logic. I'm gonna have to sleep on that one, John, but go ahead and let us know how we did.
A fascinating thing happened tonight. We had a special vote on who gave the most important role introduction. I, as vote counter, received precisely the requisite number of votes to declare myself the winner of that contest. So now we truly know whose role is most important. In other news, our best speaker tonight, congratulations, Brian. Our best table topics, Kat. And our best evaluator, Carl. Congratulations to our winners, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Quick. So other people also picked up on that logic, apparently. I thought that was brilliant, Lois, to have people say my role is the most important, because it makes us all think about how important our roles are and to justify it. And I thought that everybody did a great job of explaining why their role is important. Obviously, every role is important, otherwise we wouldn't have them. Excellent speakers, excellent speeches tonight. I was very impressed, and it was a nice variety of humor, education, and storytelling. And that was very well done. The table topic, Sarah, I applaud you. The question, because Scrabble, I mean, it's kind of a boring topic, really, but the way you worded your questions, you got great responses, and we had some very humorous responses, and I just thought you did a fantastic job. The other thing I was impressed is the way that you picked people using the chat. That was very clever. And Kat, your table topics, I looked around, and David Carr, I thought was gonna cough up a lung. He was laughing so hard. So I saw a lot of people laughing, so that, thank you for that. An excellent meeting. Again, another phenomenal meeting. I love coming here, and I appreciate this opportunity to be a general evaluator. At this point, I will turn it back to our esteemed Toastmaster, Lois.
Thank you, Tiger. Okay, well, we have wrapped up the regular portion of the meeting, and I did want to backtrack for a moment and explain why I asked you to tell us that your role is the most important. For many of you, that might be the only chance you get to speak the entire meeting. You should be taking advantage of that. And that brings me to something that's very dear to my heart, which is mentorship, because your mentor should be walking you through those kind of roles. If you are new to Toastmaster, because some of you come in, no Toastmasters, some of you come in professional experience. If you want a mentor, there's a plethora of individuals here that can help you move to your next level. And even if you came in as a distinguished Toastmaster, maybe you want to practice humor, maybe you want to practice how to do this or that, find someone in this club to mentor you, to take you to that next stage. Mentorship is so incredibly important, and I know a lot of us take advantage of it. And I encourage you to look around, because we have amazing individuals. On April 27th, we do need a Toastmaster of the Day. Do I have any volunteers? I'm looking. John, do you see anybody? Because we can volunteer you all day long, but if you volunteer, we'll be happy to volunteer. All right, Nick Lacani, thank you very much. John's going to make that happen. We have 3 speakers, Carol Perhinsky, Emily, you're signed up again, and Antoinette, and Sam, you are our, on 4/24, that is April 4th, we are going to have a speech-a-thon. So Roger should be opening that up into our, onto our calendar. And the last thing I need to talk about with 1 minute left to go is that officer election is coming up. If you're interested in it, please make sure you let Roger or David Carr know. I do have time to ask a couple of guests what they thought. Let's see the meeting. I'm unmuting you, Willa Sue. Actually, I can't get you unmuted. David, can you unmute her? Okay, there you go. Willa Sue, how did you like meeting?
The meeting was exactly what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be smooth. I wanted to feel secure with all the roles, and I wanted it to be creative. I look forward to being able to come back next time, and to everybody who's here.
All right, well, thank you. It is now 9 o'clock. We end our meeting on time. However, we stay anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes afterwards for those of you that want to give us your feedback on the meeting and or would like to chat about green or anything else that you need help with. Having said that, we're ending the meeting. Thank you. All right, we will wait a couple of minutes to let those that want